So it is officially 1 week since I wrapped up my first year of law school. A lot of wins, a lot of lessons, but now, since it's still fresh in my mind, I thought I'd share my experience in first year and different things that I would keep in mind if I were an upcoming 1L, and things that either I wish I did or things that really helped throughout my journey. So take a step back, grab popcorn, and enjoy. So, hello everybody, welcome to Billable Time. My name is Mo Hussain, coming to you from, as you can probably tell, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This is a podcast where I usually talk to other people about their legal journeys and different pieces of advice that they would share for up-and-coming professionals like myself. But just since I just wrapped up 1L and it's fresh in my mind, I'd love to share my experience with 1L, different things I'd keep in mind if I were a rising law student, and things that I wish I could have done, but I don't really have too many regrets about law school, and it played out the way I wanted to, did everything I could, had fun, grinded, but these are some of the things I would keep in mind if I were starting again in August or September, or whenever you will start law school. Just a preface before I sort of begin. My first year of law school was certainly a little more unique than most law students, especially in North America and in other law schools, in that I was part of the dual JD program offered by the University of Windsor and the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law, where I simultaneously learned about Canadian and American law and hopefully graduate with a degree in both countries. On one side, it was definitely a nice academic exercise, got to expand my network, learned a lot from a lot of people, but on the other side, the workload was certainly doubled. A lot more different things to consider, whether it's crossing the border, different transcripts, various different things, checking both emails. So everything that I'm about to say was accelerated in that context for sure. I also just wanted to preface that, my experience is certainly different than others, in that there may be different social settings, different academic environments, different professors. So, take whatever advice I give with a little bit of a grain of salt, and I'm sure that there's other people that can give valuable perspectives as well. The first thing I would say is, and this may sound really obvious, but law school is more than just an academic exercise. And what I mean by that is, if you take any course in isolation, you probably, you 98% either pass that course, if not be average or above average, or if not excel, if you just had that course to consider. But when you take, let's say, the average property law course, and then you combine that with criminal law, contract law, in different law schools, it's tort law, it's a variety of different courses that you're taking, legal writing and whatnot, it becomes incredibly challenging to excel to the highest degree in all of those courses. And I think if I could go back to the beginning of law school, I would kind of definitely give myself a little more grace in that, let's say not performing to the best of your abilities in one course doesn't mean that A, you're not capable of that, and B, that, you're doomed forever. And so that's definitely what I would consider, in that law school is more than just an isolated academic experience. It's an experience that tests your work ethic, your discipline, prioritization, and especially if you are moving out of your hometown and going to a different place for law school, it's also like a brand new social setting. So if you get homesick very easily, it can be incredibly challenging to balance that. So when people say, I'm going to law school, I don't mean to blow it out of proportion, but it's a pretty big commitment. For a variety of reasons. It's not your average 9-to-5. It's not in any way, shape, or form your average undergrad for sure, even grad school programs. This is a brand new experience that I think a lot of people beat themselves up too hard on, especially myself. If anybody's in my class probably watching this, they're like, Mo, you're the biggest hypocrite of them all. But this is certainly something I wish I could have processed, which is, to give a little bit of grace, especially when those midterm marks come out, and that it's definitely a learning curve just adapting to the lifestyle, the work ethic, the discipline, and the prioritization, you're definitely going to walk out a more organized person. But those early days, please give yourself some grace, because it's not easy balancing all that workload, the social factors, all that, especially if you have no experience doing it. With that being said, I hate to, get into Reddit stereotypes, but 1L grades do matter, and not to the extent of which, it's make or break. You're never going to get a job if you don't get good grades. But I had an upper year one time tell me this, which was that grades just help you get in the door, and they can make life a lot easier in terms of the OCI process, which I'm probably going to start dealing with really soon, and various different opportunities offered within the school as well. In our program specifically, there was, let's say a GPA, like a very relatively simple GPA requirement for different externships, internships, positions. So if you can kind of just not even go and excel and have no life, just show up to class, do your readings, and just be a diligent student. That is something that I try to do for a lot of classes, and it paid off in some respects. And then the classes where, let's say, that same work ethic wasn't there and same due diligence wasn't there, it was certainly a challenge come finals time to catch up on all the material and be prepared for the finals. So 1L grades, just be a decent student is what I would say. With that being said, the method of getting said good grades doesn't necessarily have to be working insanely hard, as it is working smart. But you don't, in my opinion, you don't get to working smart unless you work hard first. So that means trying out different study methods, trying out different ways of comprehending a lecture, different ways of doing the readings. That comes from repetition. And so sort of working hard helps you establish that, ability to work smart. But, once you do so, and once you kind of figure out your rhythm, don't go out of your way to do the same thing that works for one class and try to apply it for another. Specifically when, one class, a professor may say, hey, listen, the final is just about the PowerPoints. Okay, it doesn't mean don't pay attention in class, but it means that focus your energy in that aspect of the course. And then for other courses, it's like, if you miss a class, the professor's probably going to say something within the class that you won't find within your readings, and then come finals time, you're like, where the heck did this come from? So, and that can also come from talking to upper years, which I'll get into later as a whole different segment. But, figuring out ways to work smarter and figuring out the nature of the course and what is required of you to do well in that final, I think is one thing that definitely helped me come second semester, and helped me avoid, let's say, misallocating my energy where it shouldn't be. So I would say work hard and then figure out a way to work smart. I might as well get into it now, but talk to upper years. I have the great fortune, or maybe misfortune, depending on who you talk to, of being a relatively extroverted person. So I'll talk to a wall for 40 minutes and figure out the details of construction there. But talk to upper years and people that have been there and done that, only because, back to my first point, they can really help you allocate your energy in different ways. And that has definitely helped me. And if any upper years watching this, whether it was at Windsor, Detroit Mercy, or even just the dual program, y'all definitely helped my experience, in so many different ways, because they've been there, they've done it before. And also socially, you get to just make different friends. Being around people that understand the grind specifically and they can foresee exactly what you're about to deal with, it just helps you bond better with people. And for the most part, I think that a lot of upper years are willing to share their experiences, be kind, approachable. And I had the great fortune of dealing with people that just wanted to help. So if you're out of school and you see a couple upper years, don't be afraid to talk to them. And sometimes I would literally go up and say, hey, I'm Mo, I'm a first year dual. I don't know, what should I do for this course? Or how should I take notes? And that's literally the icebreaker. And I've had, to this day, different friendships that, I would definitely cherish for life, just off of simple, honest icebreakers. So definitely talk to upper years, because you never know what piece of information will not only help you get further in academics, but you never know also what connections will lead to lifelong friendships. So definitely talk to upper years. Apologies for my language on this next piece of feedback I would give, but just don't be a dick. Law school, I can understand, is an incredibly inherently competitive environment. It's not a kumbaya type of program. You get class ranked. Definitely people that are top of the class are more likely to get high paying jobs than otherwise, but even though that's not always the case. But, there's a lot of pressure on doing well, and that could definitely drive people insane, quite frankly. But, if grades are a big portion, so is your reputation. And I wouldn't say that law school reputation is everything, but I would say that it's damn near close to that, only because you're going to be working with these people for at least the next 3 years, if not for your entire career, given that the law school community is incredibly small when you look at the grand scheme of things. And whether you like it or not, things are being said behind your back. If you're a great person, those conversations are being had. Oh, well, this person's amazing. Or if, you're not a great person to deal with, those conversations are also being held behind your back as well. So, not being a dick, excuse my language, goes a lot of different ways. Not only just, within your reputation within the law school, but within your reputation as a profession. Good people have good things said about them. Bad people have bad things said about them. But it's particularly exacerbated within the context of law school. So if you see somebody that, might need a little bit of help with something, and you're just flat out rude to them, or if, you make a comment that's unnecessary, and even if you do so, there's always room for hey, I might have miscommunicated my intentions here. Those conversations go a long way, but being ignorant to treating people right, not only is just an immoral thing, I feel, but it's something that could definitely hurt you professionally as well. So just don't be a dick is what I would say. The next thing I would say is be careful about your social circles. I had the incredibly great fortune of, and this is no shade to anybody at my law school, but I would say I had the incredible fortune of having very supportive people who were not only there for me academically when, I wanted to discuss a particular course, but also personally when, just things weren't going well. So, having that support system, was crucial to just getting through first year. And if you can find that, and that could be through various ways. It's just be quite frankly, it could just be through being yourself, not being rude to people, being approachable. Those things can certainly help, but a good social circle is everything. And also a not so good social circle can also hinder you, especially if, all, your circle's doing is, let's say if they're talking bad about people, or if they're negative inherently, or if there's, a sense of competitiveness within that where you feel like you have to restrict yourself, that will, I think, will do a hindrance to performance, not only academically, but, in terms of, having a good time in law school. So, having a good social circle is something I would certainly suggest as well. This next piece, I would say, is a very, very tough balance to strike, especially when, you have a lot of people to impress, being a first-year law student, and different first impressions you need to make. But it's finding a way to be professional-ish, in that you want to be professional, not cross any bounds, take a situation as serious as it needs to be, but not do so in a way where you take a serious situation beyond its proportion and not be yourself and just walk around like an American Psycho or like a ChatGPT and like artificial intelligence bot where you're not a human being, right? We're all human beings. I certainly love to crack jokes at the law school, or even be part of bits in the class where, I think me and my relationship with Shelby's shawarma is documented. But, I think that being yourself can, especially in professional settings, needs to be, in a weird way, I don't know if this is the right term to use, but filtered, especially in scenarios where, let's say, firms are hosting socials, right? In those socials, everything is being analyzed. And, it's important that doesn't become the time and place where you activate Tinder or Bumble Premium, or you decide that, now is the time to take advantage of the open bar, right? That sort of behavior, maybe you want to do that on a King Street in Toronto, or in different environments where that's more so expected. But at a law firm environment, it's important to have fun and not lose who you are, but also not to do it in a way that crosses any bounds or goes beyond the scope of professionalism and getting too comfortable, if that makes sense. So it's something that I'm definitely still working on. A lot of young people are working on, and it comes with experience, but sort of using common sense in situations like that always prevails. So find a way to be professional in a way that where you can express yourself, but not in a way that, can be too comfortable, if that makes sense. This next point I have may be extra to some, but for me certainly helped, which is if you don't understand something, speak to the professor directly. I think that there's a lot of situations where I found myself absolutely confused about a topic, and whether it be I wouldn't understand the readings or I just wouldn't understand the lecture. And I think a lot of people sometimes, and whatever works for them, but would take the approach of, I'll figure it out, or this person said this, and they kind of go off of hearsay for particular assignments, exams, and whatnot. It's best to hear from the source as to what's going on, because you never know what this person interpreted, or you never know, what they may have missed, because everyone's human and nobody, has an exact memory sometimes. And so having talking to a professor, going to office hours, these things certainly help with, not only understanding the material, but even with building relationships with professors whom you could just chat with on occasion and sort of learn not only advice on excelling in their course, but excelling in the profession, your personal life, and a variety of different things. So I would highly, highly suggest that even if it may seem, minuscule, or it's a small question, not letting your assumptions get the better of you and speaking directly to the professor about anything related to a particular course is extremely helpful, and something that I would definitely suggest. This next thing I would say is, if you're going to network, do it early. This is something that I did in my first couple of weeks that served a long way going throughout the whole year, which is talking to as many people as you possibly can in the first few weeks. A, because you never know who you're going to find. B, it's really the only chance you get to talk without the stress in the back of your mind of courses, extracurriculars, everything law school related. Because once the middle of first semester hits, or even like the 3/4 into it, and final season starts kicking in, assignments become due, and things just come up and pile on, especially when they pile on at once, you're not going to have the mental capacity to talk to people at the same way you would in the beginning of the year, and B, you're just not going to be able to find the time. So if you are going to network with people, try to do it early. But then again, it's also not the end of the world if you don't do it at all. But the more you network early in your law school career, the more opportunities you're going to find out about, and the more relationships you're going to build going throughout the year. So that is what I would say on that end. I would also say that don't let this come at the cost of your grades. But if you can and you have a passion for certain extracurriculars, I'd highly suggest going for it early, because A, not a lot of people will be going for certain extracurriculars or be scouting for them, but also B, it just gives you an ability to, that kind of forces you to time manage and prioritize and, deal with a variety of things at once. So on my end, trying to run for class president, that was an interesting challenge this year in terms of balancing out hosting certain events, networking initiatives, class issues, taking on different leadership positions in other contexts as well with, the Windsor Law Review, all these different things. They're small in the context of they should never, ever exceed, the priority, which is academics. And sometimes I was guilty of letting those exceed that. But if you can find a way to get involved, it's a great way of making connections, great way of building up your resume, especially if you have no experience, and just a great way to get involved and be part of your school. So if you have the time, the capacity, and the passion for any extracurriculars, go head first into them and, make law school a more holistic experience rather than just academics. But that's just me. The last thing I would say is try to have some fun. Despite all the madness, the pressure, the drama, the competition, the workload, the sleepless nights, everything related to law school, the opportunity to be around the same people every single day and study together, crack jokes, go on an odd night out, those things are going to stay with you for a long time. And even right now, I'm already reminiscent over my first year of law school, and it's only been a week. Any bits of fun you can have here and there really go a long way with dealing with the stresses of law school. It's not an easy road. It's not something that's for everybody, but if you can find ways to have fun throughout this whole chaos. A good mentor once told me, who's now a practicing attorney in Vancouver, which is that you're never going to get law school back ever again. Once you're in practice, it's a different ball game, different circumstances, different stakes, and you're never going to be in an environment with this many people who are dealing with the same struggle at the same time. So finding a way to have fun through it all is something that I would highly suggest, and something that, even though I had my fair share of fun, I wish I'd still put more emphasis into throughout my first year. Funny enough, as I'm filming the outro to this video, I'm realizing that I'm in the same plaza or lobbies that Suits was filmed in. So if there's ever a chance for, hopefully, God willing, a Suits Billable Time collaboration, hopefully today's the day that sparks it. But nonetheless, I'm sincerely appreciative of everyone that took the time to watch this video. I'm certainly not the only one that can give valuable advice. I have a lot of more years left in me in terms of law school, in terms of practice, in terms of just life. So, make sure to take anything said in this video with a grain of salt, and I'm sure other people have valuable perspectives on law school as well. Despite all the madness, the late nights, the drama, the politics, everything that goes into law school that's negative, there's equally, if not more, positives that come out of this experience. Given that it's such a rich education and a privilege, especially for first-generation immigrants like myself, to be learning the law and to have an opportunity to be practicing attorneys. So thank you to all my classmates, professors, lawyers, academic advisors, family, anybody that has helped me throughout my journey. I wouldn't have been able to survive law school without all the help that I received from so many kind and gracious people. And we have a lot more interviews to come, a lot more content, but for now, and for Billable Time, and for maybe the ghost of Suits, I'm Mo Hussain in Toronto.